Good afternoon, Bird Bros. Today I'm going to discuss Adult Swim's hypocrisy in firing Justin Roiland. First of all, let me state I'm glad they fired Roiland. I just think they should have fired Dan Harmon too. I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute, but first I'd like to explain what Roiland did before I speak about Harmon. Recently, the public has been justifiably outraged at Justin Roiland due to the details of his ongoing court case. Unfortunately, most of the court records are sealed, but here's what we do know. In mid-2017, Justin Roiland would be charged with multiple felonies, one being domestic violence and the other being false imprisonment. The victim was allegedly an ex-girlfriend of Roiland's. Also, in a possibly related case, Roiland had a restraining order taken out on him and is no longer allowed to possess firearms. Details about this trial were released in January of 2023, and once Roiland was outed for these things, other victims online felt comfortable coming forward about their own experiences. The oddly sexual jokes about underage characters in Rick and Morty gain a whole new disgusting meaning when you realize that Roiland allegedly hit on children. Let me read you one victim's statement. "This is the same grown man who groomed me from age 15. My entire high school experience was getting sexually groomed by a man I thought was mentoring me. Worst part, he's done so much worse to so many others. He's a violent criminal and there's no denying it anymore." So today this screenshot was sent to me by someone who knows about a situation I have been in since January 2016. This is something I have talked about a lot in the past couple of years, although most of you aren't aware, and I've made it that way on purpose. I've avoided posting this on Facebook because it feels less private than using my smaller social media accounts. I have been afraid and embarrassed and ashamed. I want everyone to know about this disgusting pervert, but I do not want to be connected with my own story. I want people to know he is not only a predator, but a criminal as well. But I don't want to be connected. I didn't want to remind anyone that I looked up to this person and trusted him like he was a mentor. What does that say about me if that's who I chose to look up to? Today I know that what happened was not my fault. I was a child, he was 39 years old. He is the one who should have taken responsibility and not been predatory towards a child. Unfortunately, that is his thing. I am one of hundreds. This screenshot is from someone who went through something similar with him, and is the first time since I have come to terms with the inappropriate situations that I encountered that I have found someone else who is willing to publicly talk about what happened and say his name. Justin Roiland, co-creator of Rick and Morty, co-owner of Squanch Games, and a full-on grooming predator. He first messaged me on Twitter in January 2016 after following me a while before that. I was 16 years old. He had been watching my account for a while, and he even admitted to that. He had his friend, Christy, who I assume works or worked as a predatory scout for him, finding young girls who looked a certain way and trying to set up threesomes for herself and Justin. After briefly telling me about Christy and how he found my account through her, he sends a separate message that reads, quote, "By the way, not sure if I ever told you this, but I think you are insanely hot." My reply was literally, "Foul thanks, I'm not even 18, and he just makes light of it with jokes and continues on the conversation. He mentions how he visits Raleigh ever so often for Squanch Games and that he would like to meet up with me next time he's in town. Being a super huge Rick and Morty fan at the time, ew, I know, this was extremely exciting for me. Fast forward a few years, it's now 2019. We have been texting back and forth every now and then for 3 years at the point, and I considered him a really good friend and mentor. I truly believed he had my best interest in mind, and I thought I was going to learn so much about the entertainment and animation industries through him. It took me years to realize it was always empty promises and attempt to coerce me into a sexual relationship. June 2019, he sends me a text saying he's finally going to be in town if I wanted to meet up. Of course I said yes and made plans to stay in Raleigh that weekend so I could meet up with him. The days leading up to the meeting, he kept texting me the same questions, conveniently forgetting my age so he could go, "Oh wow, so young, we gotta sneak you into bars," and just weird shit like that. He was texting in a way that made me think he was either super drunk or on a lot of drugs, so it was difficult to get any straight answers out of him about what the plans actually were, and he just kept trying to call me an Uber before I was even in town. Just weird things like that. He kept alluding that we would just be hanging out at his office until the day before or maybe the day of. Then he tells me it's a party. I asked if it was a big party. "Oh no, just some employees," he said. It was a Squanch Games launch party, so yes, it was employees, but a lot of employees. I also asked if I needed to dress up because I had not planned for a party and didn't bring any appropriate clothes. He said, "Oh no, just wear comfortable clothes." I get there and everyone is suit and tie, sparkly dresses, the works. I'm in a crop top and jean shorts, Lamau. I don't want to get into details about the whole night right now. So much happened. I just want to touch on certain details. I will be talking about this more from now on because I do not care anymore if he tries to suit me or fuck with me. He did this and people are going to be made aware of his actions. I am merely a vessel of information trying to protect children and young adults by telling my story. Don't know what else to do about it. Anyways, I did meet some really cool people, 2 of which I still talk to today, and I am beyond grateful for their support. But all of my interactions with Justin that night were odd. By this time, he had already done this with countless other underage girls. He had already gotten in trouble years before, which is why I think he behaves the way he does now. He likes to pretend like he's a protective teddy bear, harmless and peaceful. It's like he's overcompensating for his deviant, perverse actions towards young women. Example, all night he kept handing me small plates of appetizers saying, make sure you eat so you don't get too drunk, while simultaneously making sure I always had a drink, even when I had already explained to him that I didn't drink anymore at the time. I was going to have one drink. By the end of the night, I had lost count, but I stayed sober enough to not get into any more trouble than I already had. Not listening. No, at first I was like, wow, this dude's cool. Polyamory is cool as hell. It soon became very clear to me that this man was not interested in polyamory, but instead cheaply used that term as a shield to cover up the fact that he was just your average predatory pedophile who picks out people who are barely of age that look as young as possible so he can live out his disgusting fantasies. Or in my case, he picks out actual high school children to groom until they are old enough that it won't make him look like too much of a problem so he can keep flying under the radar. Anyways, long story short, to wrap this up, he ended up bringing 2 other young women home to his Airbnb with us, even though that was not our plan. He tried pressuring me to get drunker, but I was sobering up in case I needed to drive home. He randomly showed us a very violent porn of his ex-girlfriend getting rammed by a huge porn star lumphao. He pulled it up on the TV and everything. Odd choice, but okay. Glad to see you're dealing with that breakup healthily. Skipping ahead, he asked me to kiss one of the other women. My response was quite literally, well, I was going to, but now that a man has told me to, unfortunately, I won't get to. Because, he should have known. Don't tell me what to do, especially if it's to get you off. I'll make you bleed. That's about it. Anyways, the girls were clearly there to have a raunchy night, and as soon as I picked up on that, I tried to leave. The gals were sweet, I don't know anything about them, and I'm sure they were just out to have a good night. He was extremely weird about me leaving and kept trying to make me stay, but he had already made it clear that he didn't respect anything I'd been telling him about my boundaries, which were very simple. So, around 5 a.m., I started the 3-hour drive home, and got lost for about 40 minutes or so, haha, my luck. It took about a year to realize the depth of what happened, and what would have happened if I had drank more. It took someone else pointing out that his behavior was creepy and inappropriate before I truly realized what I'd been through. This person was never my friend, not even for a moment. From day one, he was training me. Since from before day one, I was just another conquest to him. I think what hurts me the most is the fact he wasn't actually my friend. That and the fact that up until this point, I had been so convinced that everything that had happened was fine. Oh, it was so normal. After all, they had all told me how mature I was for my age. I'd always heard from older men how fun I was to be around, how special I was, how smart I was, how much of an old soul I was. I was used to being looked at in that way. Growing up, older men always loved me, always told me how pretty I was, how one day I was going to be a heartbreaker. Oh, the power I had, the power I thought I had, the false power that a patriarchal society instilled in me to make me feel safe and capable and full of a sense of personal autonomy. No one could ever abuse me. How could they when I simply wouldn't allow it? I was powerful and treasured enough to be respected, right? Anything that happened to me, even if it was very bad, was very normal. My mother tried to teach me, but an individual can only judge normalcy based on their own observations about one's surroundings. I had to learn for myself. I believed everyone else must be so prude and stuck up to be offended by such sexual encounters. I rebelled against so many social norms that certain forms of male-led sexual harassment just usually did not ping on my radar. So, of course, all the normalized actions by random perverted men I'd witnessed throughout the years gave me a false sense of confidence. No, they weren't being inappropriate, they were just appreciating me. Oh, he wasn't being predatory, I'm just desirable. And the worst, this is how a feminine person is supposed to get by in life. It sucks. It's not fair, but you perform or you perish. Finding this account and talking to someone who went through what I did, well, it is a huge victory. To have someone on my side who is also posting publicly about this pathetic tube of toxic processed meat, it is truly empowering. I once again have hope that one day everyone will know what Justin Roiland does. He will be known as a pedophile. He will be known as a pathetic jerk who breaks up unions at his own animation company. He will be known as that creepy cartoon dude who preyed on your high school children. Stop supporting this man unless you are someone comfortable giving money to someone who uses that money to fly out little girls to his house and Airbnbs to get them drunk and have his way with them. Do not support pedophiles. These are some screenshots of conversations that this person had with Roiland. How old are you again? 18, KMS. I just burnt my fucking tongue. I'm a KMS. You sound like someone who should be my best friend. I'd be honored. Are you single? Asking for a friend. Not really, lol. She's gonna be sad to hear that. Who? Just a girl. Just a girl? That sounds like a song name. I was also curious, so ask for both of us. Lamau. Lit. Are you gonna come alone? Hey, what the fuck is ginger beer? Ha, it's a good mixer. So you're not gonna try and R-word me, are you? I think so. My friend will probably have classes or work Thursday. I'm foul, bitch. No offense, but if you try anything, I will ruin your career. Haha, I'm not a creep, bitch. They keep getting weeded out, thank God. Haha, how old are you? 20. Oh, that is the worst. Wait, how old are you? Well, whatever, we can figure something out. Yeah, I have no idea what to do in Raleigh, though. Haha, I'm fucking 39, dude. I'm gonna die in like a week. Oh shit, haha. I'm still in my 20s mentally, so whatever. Oh yeah? You're awesome. I wanna hang again. Hell yeah, I'm glad you want to hang again. I really appreciate you letting me use your parking pass and inviting me to the squanch and everything. Lol, you're really nice. I appreciate you. I'm happy we got to meet and that you were as cool as you are. I can't believe we finally met. I didn't think it'd happen. So fun, but I'm also so jealous and also have like a lot of issues with sex, unfortunately. But fuck yeah, I hope you find someone like that. I'm sure you will. You should get to a sex therapist now while you're still young. Sort that stuff out. Jealousy is gonna conflict with your kinks. You're completely right, Lamau, but jealousy isn't even really much of a problem with sex. It's more of an issue of trust, if that makes sense. So Roiland started talking to this person when they were 16 up until they were 20, waiting for them to be of age. What I'm going to show next is another conversation Roiland allegedly had with a kid read in a Rick and Morty voices because that's what I have to work off of, apparently.
Well, you do video game reviews and stuff like that. I bet you do good.
Like a cheese, yeah. Just like playing games and stuff.
And once you turn 18, you just start kimhuring. Why are you such jailbait? What's wrong with you in that regard? You should grow older, you dumb bitch.
What?
Is it cool being jailbait? Do the feds follow your aunt? And I'll go arrest all the men you sleep with. I want to meet you in real life jailbait, so I can help you not be a homo. You should just run away from home and go into sex slavery, you fucking stupid faggot bitch.
This is classic cartoon creator Riz here right now. Jokes aside, if anyone ever talks to you like this, run. Once all of this was outed, both Adult Swim and Squanch Games publicly cut ties with Roiland for obvious reasons and announced that Roiland will no longer be a part of Rick and Morty. Now I want to talk about what Dan Harmon has done. Ironically, around the same time as the DV stuff with Roiland, Harmon was up to some shady shit himself. Harmon admitted to taking advantage of his position of power over a writer named Megan Gans, using the power to sexually harass her while she was too afraid to speak up so as not to lose her job. Not only was this gross, but she could have also potentially lost her income source due to this creep. She also said it mentally fucked her up because she didn't know if she was actually talented at all or if she only had her job to serve as a sex object to Harmon. I'm now going to read you Harmon's public apology. I was attracted to an employee. I really want to be really careful about that language because a huge part of the problem is a culture of feelings that you think are unique and significant because they're happening to you, and saying things like I had feelings for and I fell for and all these things. The most clinical way I can put it in, fessing up to my crimes, is that I was attracted to a writer I had power over because I was a showrunner and I knew enough to know that those feelings were bad news. That was easy enough to know. I knew that they ran the risk of undercutting people's faith in my judgment, her faith in her talent, and the other writers' respect for me, the entire production, the audience. I knew I wasn't doing anybody any favors by feeling these things, so I did the cowardly, easiest, laziest thing you can do with feelings like that, and didn't deal with them. And in not dealing with them, I made everybody else deal with them, especially her. Flirty, creepy, everything other than overt enough to constitute betraying your live-in girlfriend who you're going home to every night, who is actually smart enough and respectful enough to ask you, do you have feelings for that young writer that you're talking about, that you're paying all this attention to? And saying to her no, because the trick is if you lie to yourself, you can easily lie to everybody else. It's really easy. And so that's what I continue to do, telling myself and anybody else that threatened to confront me with it that if you thought what I was doing was creepy or sexist or unprofessional, it was because you were the sexist or jealous. I was supporting this person. I'm a mentor. I'm a feminist. It's your problem, not mine. You're the one who's actually seeing things through that lens. And so I let myself keep doing it, and it's not as if this person didn't repeatedly communicate to me the idea of what I was doing was divesting her of a recourse to integrity. I just didn't hear it because it didn't profit me to hear it. And this was, after all, happening to me, right? After a season of playing it that way, I broke up with my girlfriend, who I'd lied to the whole time, while lying to myself, lied to her about why I was breaking up with her, because I thought that would make having inappropriate feelings for a coworker appropriate if I wasn't involved. I want you to be the one to examine this and every step of the way decide for yourself where I'm making mistakes. I don't want to explain to you what I've learned. I want you to look at this, and I want it to sound relatively unremarkable to you because that's the danger. I broke up with my girlfriend and then I went full steam into creeping on my employee. That was even less appropriate after all. Now I wasn't in danger of being a bad person. After that season, I got overt about my feelings after it wrapped. I said, I love you, and she said the same thing she'd been saying the entire time in one language or another. Please, don't you understand that focusing on me like this, preferring me like this, liking me like this, I can't say no to it, and when you do it, it makes me unable to know whether I'm good at my job. And because I finally got to the point where I said to her, I love you, because that's what I thought it was, when you target somebody for 2 years and it was therefore rejected that way, I was humiliated. So I continued to do the cowardly thing. I continued to do the selfish thing. Now I wanted to teach her a lesson. I wanted to show her that if she didn't like being liked that way, then oh boy, she should get over herself. After all, if you're going to be a writer, then this is how just writers get treated. And that was probably the darkest of it all. I'm going to assume when she tweets about it and refers to trauma, that's probably it. I drank, I took pills, I crushed on her and resented her for not reciprocating it, and the entire time, I was the one writing her paychecks and in control of whether she stayed or went, or whether she felt good about herself or not, and said horrible things, just treated her cruelly, pointedly, things I would never, ever would have done if she had been male, and if I had never had those feelings. And I lied to myself the entire time about it, and I lost my job, I ruined my show, I betrayed the audience. I destroyed everything and I damaged her internal compass, and I moved on. I've never done it before and I will never do it again, but I certainly wouldn't have been able to do it at all if I had any respect for women. On a fundamental level, I was thinking about them as different creatures. I was thinking about the ones that I liked as having some sort of special role in my life, and I did it all by not thinking about it. So I just want to say, in addition to obviously being sorry, but that's not really the important thing. I want to say I did it by not thinking about it. I got away with it by not thinking about it. And if she hadn't mentioned something on Twitter, I would have continued to have to not think about it. And although I did walk around with my stomach in knots about it, I wouldn't have had to talk about it. The last and most important thing I can say is just think about it. No matter who you are at work, no matter where you work and what field you're in, no matter what position you have over, under, or side by side with somebody, just think about it. Because if you don't think about it, you're going to get away with not thinking about it. And you can cause a lot of damage that is technically legal and hurts everybody. And I think we're living in a good time right now because we're not going to get away with it anymore. If we can make it a part of our culture that we think about it and possibly talk about it, then maybe we can get to a better place where that stuff doesn't happen. So that's it. Please don't hurt her. Please don't make this worse on anybody but me. Personally, given that the initial and most damning actions happened around the same time for both writers, how come one got off scot-free whereas the other had his career ruined entirely? My guess is Harmon's controversy didn't cause enough outrage for him to get fired initially, but Roiland's did. Even if people get upset retrospectively about Harmon's actions, Adult Swim likely won't let him go because they're contractually obligated to create more seasons of Rick and Morty as they recently renewed the contract. Sure, the show can conceivably run without one of the writers, but not without both. Adult Swim could only let one of them go, so they chose Roiland, who arguably had worse writing and caused a bigger outrage. Not to mention, Roiland has been officially charged, whereas Harmon was not. Unfortunately, Adult Swim's hands are tied, but it's their own doing. In a perfect world, Adult Swim would have fired Harmon back when he was caught taking advantage of someone at his job. This should have been a massive red flag. Then the show would have been run solely by Roiland and likely would have not done as well due to poor writing. If this was the case, they likely would have actually canceled Rick and Morty earlier and possibly even let Roiland go before he was publicly outed this month and saved themselves a ton of bad press. The moral of the story is, if you do the right thing from the start, it will pay off for you later down the line. If you ignore red flags, you can put yourself in a bind that will cost you both money and respect. In regards to the show itself, there will obviously be a lot more incest jokes now that Harmon's in control, but that's not what everyone seems to be worried about. People's biggest concern is the voices, and I'm gonna keep it straight with you. I know schizophrenics at the club who can do better character impressions than Roiland. I'm not too concerned. However, that being said, it always was a somewhat mid-show, but it's just gonna get a whole lot worse because they're just likely to rush out the final season since viewership will likely go down. As I mentioned before, it's likely that had they not already signed a contract for more seasons, they'd be canceling the show altogether. Overall, it's kinda sad to see Rick and Morty wash up like this. It was never the best show necessarily, but when it first began, it had its own unique charm. Now it's simply riddled with flaws and controversy. Something I always tell writers is to quit while you're ahead. End your show before you start needing to sacrifice quality and integrity. That's all for today, and I'll catch you on the flip side.